Well, if I can get orientated properly, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rates and Lanes podcast. I am your host, Rico Muhammad. I am going to be joined here very shortly by my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow. And tonight, we have on our resident insurance expert, Mr. Tommy Ruke, is joining us again. It's always a pleasure when we get Tommy on the show. He always comes with a wealth of knowledge, insight, and information. So, unfortunately, this show is being pre-recorded, so we can't take your questions, but you can always, we'll give you information where you can reach out to Tommy if you have a specific question where he may be able to help you out or guide you in the right direction. Before we get started, if you ladies and gentlemen would do us a huge favor, please like, share, and subscribe to the show. It helps us out tremendously for the YouTube algorithm. And just disregard me turning upside down in every which way. It's just, I don't know, it's a glitch in the system. But but we are here. If you guys would do us a huge favor, if you know anyone that could benefit from this information or that could use this information, please like, share, and subscribe to the show. And with that being said, and without any further ado, let me welcome my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow. Good evening, Chuck.
Good evening, Rico. It's good to see you.
Yeah,
I'm hanging around, man. Just hanging around.
I feel like a pinwheel over here.
I'm really excited about today's show because we have not had our good friend Tommy Ruke on in ages. Tommy's been busy, we've been busy, and just for our listeners' sake, Tommy Ruke is affectionately known as Professor Truck Insurance. He is the guy that the insurance companies go to when they're having problems. So there's not much about truck insurance that Tommy doesn't know, and we're going to pick his brain this evening. So with no further ado, let's welcome Tommy Ruke, Professor Truck Insurance, to the show.
I'd rather be called a kingpin or the son of a trucker, Chuck, but that would be that, Professor, whatever you said. But one thing, since I'm in my retirement, I don't have anything to sell anymore, so I'm here to help people. Is all what I've done for the last 12 years, with my foundation. But anybody here, they contact me. I'm not going to follow up or spam them. I can help them, and that's what my objective is. I help somebody about every day with some question about coverage or how to do this or how to do that.
Tommy, I got to tell you, how frequent I run into people, and we always get talking about insurance because it's an issue everywhere. It has gotten worse, I understand. And whenever you talk to somebody that knows anything, they always refer to Tommy Ruke. Well, I called Tommy Ruke and I got this information. Well, and they go, Tommy, do you? Well, yeah, I do now. And they go, do you know him? I go, well, Tommy's dad and my dad did business together about 65 years ago. That's how long it is.
Right. Yeah. So we've known that part, and we have family together, Chuck. But you mentioned the insurance. The problem is that these plaintiff attorneys, these billboard attorneys, have won so many cases that the insurance industry have not made money writing trucking. And when that happens, there's two solutions to that. Get out of the business, which a couple of them have done that. Nationwide and Liberty Mutual gotten out of the trucking insurance business. Second, be more selective. And third, get a better rate that they have. The other thing is compounding things, Chuck. And I don't know if you have run into this. Rico, you might have. But we have these third-party vendors who are vending motor carriers and refer them to brokers to use. And they look at certificate insurances and federal website, and those people don't know insurance and don't know what they're looking at. And every now and then a trucker gets blackballed for no reason. I had one the other day that this insurance company screwed up 3 times when they made their filing. And I can't believe this company did this. I got a call Friday with the principal of the company to find out why they did this. But they made 3 filings for 3 different insurers and had the effective date and the expiration date the same, which means it showed that they had no coverage for a couple of days. Now they're blackballed and they're out of business. And so I'm fighting that and trying to fight that battle too. So it's very important for the trucker to make sure that they get their insurance early enough, meaning a couple, 3 days, and make sure, ask for their agent a copy of the filing and go on their portal to make sure it was made in time before the other one expires. I can't, that's a lot to have somebody, a trucker, to do for something that the insurance company should have done it.
But Tommy, I have to speak up here, and I had this once. There was an insurance company that was begging me and begging me and begging me to let them quote direct. And this wasn't through my agent. And at the time, I was getting a little ticked off with who my agent had me with. And I went to the insurance company and I said, okay, here's your chance. And they go, no, we don't want to do it until 3 days before the policy expires. And I go, whoa, I'm real uncomfortable with that. I go, why would you do that? And they go, well, in case you have a wreck or something. Well, I haven't had one in 2 years. Why am I going to have one now?
Chuck, this is why they don't understand this, okay? It's not, the filing has nothing to do with insurance. If you have a policy, the policy responds.
Right.
So if they could go ahead and make the filing, in fact, one thing I just thought about here, they need to ask their agent, are you going to cancel my filing if I renew this? Because you don't have to cancel the filing. I've written a couple of white papers. It's there to protect themselves. A lot of insurance companies, Great West, Northland, Canal, do not cancel the filings each year. Century do not cancel the filing. There's no need to. If I'm going to renew you, the worst thing I can do is interrupt my relationship with you and cancel your filing. If I have dealt with you for 12 or 10 months because you have to give the notice and I'm going to give a renewal, I can do that. And if you go to somebody else, even my filings out there, they don't look at the filings as long as you bought a policy. So everybody's going to buy some policy. And again, you've got to have a new certificate insurance from the agent to be sent to the shippers or brokers, or you can't get a load. So I'm telling these insurance companies, why did they cancel? There's a few out there who still do, like the one I just involved in, but there's no need to from a practical matter. So one thing a trucker can do is ask their insurance agent, are you going to cancel my filing as they work on the renewal? And be prepared if they don't do that. Say, why are you doing that? Because I intend to do business with you. I'm going to still be in business, and try to talk about that ahead of time so this doesn't happen. And these companies, one of them domiciled here in Orlando. I called him up a couple years ago to try to explain how that stuff works when it happened a couple of times here. And you know what he said? If you come here, I'm going to arrest you for trespassing, and I won't let you in my door. They don't want to hear.
So tell me, I got a question.
It out so because what they're doing is hurting the brokers for choice of truckers, particularly the smaller ones, for no reason. And it just gets involved. And Rico, you can't believe how lack of knowledge some of them have, just like what we just talked about here, these vending companies.
Oh yeah. I got a question for you, Tommy.
Go ahead.
Last week, the biggest news that I think come out was about Carol Fulmer shutting down.
I wanted to talk about that. Yes.
And from what I understand, it had a lot to do with their insurance. Is there anything that you have any insight on that, or can you?
Can I just type in here? The other thing I heard about Carol Fulmer, I was reading about it last night because I wanted to bring it up. And what I read was they had so many of these little tiny, non-consequential and I'm going to say it on there, bullshit lawsuits.
Right.
Okay.
250,000 here, 250,000 there.
Exactly. That they just threw their hands up because the freight market's so bad. So yeah, along the same lines, Rico and I both have questions on that one. That was a good company. You probably know them really well, Tommy.
Which one was it now?
Carol Fulmer.
Carol Fulmer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. And he tied up with Freightways?
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know if he was tied up, but he's been in business for almost as long as your dad was, 71 years. It would be.
It's just he could get insurance. It's just, can you afford it now? That's the problem you have, and frequency is a problem. In fact, the insurance companies look at frequency more than severity. We expect to have big losses as long as your business is looks at from the federal website favorably. I mean, your CSA scores are good and your inspections are good and your driver selection is good. They'll tolerate a loss. They don't like a whole lot of losses. That's the problem that we have, Chuck and Rico. The frequency becomes a problem. They expect a reportable crash about every 4 years per unit.
Well, from what I understand, they were self-insured, and like I say, they had about 4 or 5 of those $250,000 lawsuits, and they had just gotten a $29 million line of credit to get everybody paid. And when that came down, I guess it was maybe more conducive to just shut everything down and sell everything than to continue to pay out these lawsuits.
Rico, make a comment here. Nobody's self-insured, but they have a large retention or participating plan. I don't like this idea of self-insured because the government makes you there's only 3 or 4 that can qualify nationwide because you got to deal with every state. What you do is assume a risk, $1 million. In fact, I'm working with a client right now who wants to assume $300,000 of risk, and then those are financially secured. You have to get irrevocable letters of credits, and that can put somebody out of business. And the problem with those kind of self-insured programs, quote unquote, the security you post, they keep it until everything's settled. You don't get it back when you cancel the policy. So if they have irrevocable letter of credits out there, those are most of the times secured by something, and the insurance company is going to hold those for 4 or 5 years. In fact, I've been in a couple of expert witnesses where the insurance company still had the money for over 5 years to release the security. And it was this case, Chuck, is work comp, and you can't, after 2 years, you can't file a new work comp claim. And yet we had to go to arbitration with that one. So you have to be real careful and financially sound when you go with this. Obviously, they're big enough that they knew this here and should have known this, and they didn't get blindsided. But that can tell you, I mean, Rico, if this is a problem becoming self-insured, you don't know when the bad case is going to happen. It can happen the first policy. In fact, I had a program with a $500,000 retention, and we did good for 5, 6 years. But then 1 year we had a bad year. Now, fortunately, we had stuff saved up. But if that bad year had happened in the first year, we wouldn't have been there anymore.
Yeah. I'm afraid that we're starting to experience some type of, I don't know, I want to say some type of fatigue, because you got these situations going on where I understand the insurance company may not have been making money, but in some cases I'm hearing that some companies are raising rates 230%, as much as 230%.
Nobody's doing that unless you got a bad profile. There's still markets out there that, what I'm hearing, good risks are getting anywhere between 5 and 7% rate increases.
Okay, now that's a little bit more tolerable.
Well, risk with bad CSA scores. It's what people don't understand. And I don't think CSA is the catch-all and particular crashes, all that. But what's happening is the plaintiff's attorneys use your public information against you in a court case. So when we look at your public information, your CSA scores, your crashes, your age of the drivers involved in the crashes, how many vehicles you have, are they leased or not, and how honest you are with that information, the insurance companies look at that and say, I can't insure you because it's so bad that the plaintiff's attorneys, if we have a crash, are going to let me pay more than I should. And so that's the key. That's the key to get good loads and good insurance, particularly for people, which is 90% of the marketplace, with less than 10 power units. This is a linchpin. Besides experience, now again, I'm working on that part, 2 or 3 years experience. But once you have that, then how the public record is, which means that the truckers, we talked about this before, the trucker your motor carrier needs to check their CSA scores at least monthly. We have a program, if anybody here wants to email me, Rico, I'll give you a complimentary part of this, and we'll show, and then you can tell it. We'll send you an email every month with your CSA scores. And anytime you have your truck inspected, let me rephrase it, anytime a truck inspected under your DOT number, we'll send you an email immediately as soon as it goes in the system. Because a lot of people have a DOT number stolen. In fact, I just talked to somebody the other day talking about that, and they said that I just saw a truck running down the highway, and on the side of the truck they used tape, duct tape, cardboard, and a pencil had the DOT number and name on it. That's all you have to do.
You see that more often than not.
Inspectors don't know how to. They don't look beyond that. And so now that trucker stole somebody's DOT number in all likelihood. I don't know the facts of it because we didn't get it stopped. They stole it now, and the ones who steal it are the ones who can't have that profile, so they're trying to copy somebody else's profile. And so now they're getting theirs bad history, and now that trucker has a bad history. Now the shippers won't get them a load because their CSA scores are bad. They get now inspected, knock on the door, the audit official looks at more often, this kind of stuff. This is why it's important to check those things all the time to make sure the driver, and they go in a portal, and I know that's difficult to get into. You have to have it all set up and all, but they got to look at those things. I suggest weekly, if at all possible, on their own portal. If they don't have time to do it, then we have a program that can send this for them that's on email every week to do that. But if they don't keep those up, they're not going to get good insurance rates. So the only people that are going to have those bad rates will be those people that have an adverse situation.
So that's going to drive them out of the business because they're not going to be able to buy insurance, or not going to be able to, they can buy it, but they won't be able to afford it. So really, I guess what we're seeing, Rico, although it's slow and painful, and we are seeing the industry clean up itself through insurance, I guess. That's one area.
It's going to be truly interesting because, we got this fight on our hands coming down with the possible rollback of the EPA mandate. So you're going to have more people that are, so I'm not sure how that's going to affect insurance or not.
I don't know if that'll affect the insurance. What it'll do is it'll make a lot of old trucks that were perhaps obsolete, no longer obsolete. But, the running of a truck, first of all, is one of the many financial components of running a business. Insurance is still the big one, I would think. Rico, you run a truck every day. What do you think? Insurance is one of your major costs, correct?
Absolutely. My insurance, luckily, I have pretty decent insurance. It's not terribly expensive. I had to switch companies at my last renewal. I was with Great West, great company. I love being with them, but I experienced a rate hike with them. The rate hike with them may have been, at the time of renewal last year, may have been about extra $350, $400, somewhere in that ballpark.
Right.
And now I'm with Canal, which is still a pretty decent insurance company, and we've been rolling right along with them for the past since this last renewal. I got another renewal coming up. When is my renewal coming? November. I have a renewal coming up in November. So I'm right in the I'm right at the threshold of getting ready to get this process started.
But that's the first thing to get a solid insurance program is you got to realize that your public information, how you drive that truck, how you operate that truck is very, very important. The second thing the insurance companies look at, Rico, I don't know how you have the cameras. In fact, if you don't have a forward camera anymore, a lot of companies won't look at you anymore, forward looking. They looking at the driver's side, that's up for debate. But what's misunderstood in those is those cameras do not have to watch you when you sleep. They don't watch you when you're eating. It's only when a truck goes on a highway. There's a couple court, Florida being the state that has done some court reform. And what Florida's saying, and Texas has a little bit, and also Nebraska just did this, Louisiana's doing this. If you're insured, if the driver did nothing wrong, then or they're not at least 50% liable, then the plaintiff's attorney can't get anything, or they can't introduce this other information out there like your CSA scores. And you have to prove that. And unless you have the videos to prove that that the four-wheeler did it, you follow what I'm saying, and the driver was doing everything right, it's good. The second thing is, some of these apps now, Rico, and it does cost a little money, can monitor the driver. And that crash that had in Texas the other week where the driver went asleep, if they had that inward camera monitoring that driver, it would have alerted the driver that they were driving off, and they might have stopped the truck before the crash. And I understand the invasion of privacy and all that, but we got to use this technology to try to assist the driver. It's not going to replace the driver. It's not to penalize the driver. It's to save the driver when possible and to prove the driver, because 90%, 75% of the time the driver was doing everything right. But the more data you have to fight that in court, the better off you are.
Yeah,
you know what, Tommy, I can't agree more. If I was to operate a commercial fleet again, there's no way, or if I was an investor in a truck insurance company, there is no way I want any part of a 18-wheeler in this environment with the way things go. This sue a truck, 1-800 sue a truck, or everybody get rich by suing people that own heavy trucks. There's no way I want any part of them operating commercially on the highway without forward and backward facing cameras. There's no way in the world. I think you're out of your mind. Nobody's watching you scratch yourself. What they want to see is if there's a specific, if you brake too hard, they want to know what happened.
Well, yeah, and those things you can answer to address those things, because the camera will say, because they're going to get you your ELD information will show how you're operating the truck. The ECM in the truck, electronic control module in the truck, will measure that stuff. So they'll see that. If you have the camera, why did you brake? Because somebody stopped in front of you and brake checked you. That's why you had to stop. Or you were in a congested area or something, and that can show why you had too many brakes, because you now have the video that correlates what was happening when you were doing this stuff.
Well, yeah, you're on 95 in New Jersey on a Friday afternoon. We understand that.
Or 5-4 in Orlando, which is worse than that even, but go ahead.
I'm seeing more and more as I'm driving on a daily basis, especially right now down here in the southeastern part of the United States. We're dealing with a lot of inclement weather as far as rain. It's really been raining really heavily over the past couple of days. And I seen a horrific accident a little earlier in the day, and it was actually a local building supply company. You know, they had the concrete cinder blocks and everything loaded up, and they were going, it looks like they were going to make a delivery, and a four-wheeler was in front of them, and they hit the brakes, and they were following entirely too closely and just creamed that poor little four-wheeler. I mean, creamed them. We have to make sure, safety is always got to be first. It can't just be a slogan. It can't just be something in the back of our mind. And I understand being under the constraints of ELDs and everything else, trying to be as efficient as possible. But at the same time, we have a duty to make sure that we're performing our duties as safely as possible at all times.
And when things happen like that, we got records now to do it. Yep. I mean, the problem we have, Chuck, you pointed this out here. We got the ECM, electronic control module information, but we don't have what really happened. And so you only got half the information. With only half the information, that'll dig a hole for you that you spend more time digging out, and the insurance companies, afraid of these big verdicts, try to settle the case with too much money early on. But if you have the videos that the driver didn't do anything wrong, was everything in compliance, that then the insurance companies are willing to fight that. And by the same token, if you did something wrong, we'll address it right now. We don't hire an attorney. We don't reconstruction. We'll go meet and have our checkbook and try to settle it to protect you, because the insurance company has to spend their money to protect you. That's why you buy insurance. If they don't spend the money to protect you, if they can get it settled within the limits, then it's bad faith above that. So they're willing to put up whatever it takes to settle the case if you did something wrong. So that's why this documentation is just so important. And I'm on the Road Dog Radio Show often. We still get pushbacks from drivers calling in, and we might have some pushback today from your audience too, Rico and Chuck. But it's just, think about even some of the new court cases you see, things on happening to these people here. even that football player who hit his wife. I mean, the video damned him. He lost his job on that part of it.
Well, not only that, it's funny you make mention of that. What we got to understand is, and this is what I talk about sometimes, as being more savvy. When we are quote unquote business owners, and we have insurance for a reason, for our business, to protect our business. And a lot of times we think from a very small level of, we thinking that the insurance company is supposed to be there to fight our fight, so to speak, and they do, but the insurance company is there to help limit the liability. This is why when these people and when you look at the celebrities that get these accusations about certain sexual assaults or whatever, nothing may have never even happened, but it's going to cost the person that they are making the allegation against so much money that the insurance, especially if they're the head of a major corporation or the head of any type of money making venture, the insurance companies are just going to go ahead and settle the lawsuit. They may not settle it for the full amount, but they're going to settle that thing out of court to get it to go away.
Right.
And that's a tragic case, and I'm sure y'all have heard the publicity about the Warner case that came out of Texas, out of Harris County, Texas. It's been sitting here for 10 years. It was when a four-wheeler on an adverse weather day crossed the median, ran in the front of Warner's truck, killed somebody, quadriplegic somebody here, and the jury awarded $100 million against Warner. Now, Warner had enough dollars to fight that. The Supreme Court of Texas just ruled that Warner could have done nothing wrong, and the causation factor, since they could do nothing wrong, they voided the whole judgment, this part, because they said that nothing they could have done. And if nothing could have done, they don't owe anything. The jury bought into all this system. What they found, and this is, again, we talk about this, Rico, if you have a rule, follow the rule. They found that Warner and other truckers took their trucks off the highway that day, and it was adverse weather. That was the one thing that kind of swayed the jury to give them money and blame Warner on that. But that's a big win, and hope some other states here. They went back to the proximate cause of the crash. It was a four-wheeler, not the trucker.
Right.
But if they had a video of that in Florida now, they would not have been able to even file a case. It had been dismissed in Florida and some of the other courts. This is why the videos are so important. I don't know if Warner had a video or not. This was undisputed what happened. But that's a positive thing that the insurance industry and the trucking industry should be elated over this. But the thing is, the problem with this, Chuck and Rico, and this is what the plaintiffs don't understand, because that was bad, Warner would have paid, their insurance company would have paid $1 million that day.
Oh, yeah.
Even more than that. But the plaintiff's attorney said we can get far, far, far more than that. Now they're getting nothing here, and because the trucking companies, they'll try to do what's right, even though, because they did damage this part. And I know that happened. So now they went here and they did, and they're getting nothing now here versus getting something that would have been reasonable in the process. So the plaintiff's attorney on TV saying, I can get you $5 million, I can get you $20 million. Yeah, if they win, but if they don't win, then the plaintiff's attorneys keep all that and the expenses, and they don't get anything. This is what they don't say on that side of the equation.
Yeah, and the lawyers win on both sides, because I guarantee you, and I have no idea until we talk to Derek Leathers exactly what they spent over at Warner defending themselves, but I bet you it was $10 million.
Oh yeah. They won. They would say, we're sorry, here's a couple $1 million or whatever. It would have been reasonable to put a life care for the quadriplegic, the child, doing all that kind of stuff, just out of sympathy, because Warner can't afford bad publicity that happened like that.
Right.
Follows what I'm saying. And most of them try to do what's right. And of course, Warner's got enough dollars to do something right. And I know their attitude on that. So this is the downside. And when you hear the TV ads, how much, and Florida's the worst place. I counted 4 ads in a row from plaintiffs' attorneys. 2 of them had trucks in their ads. Here, they say they got this for him. They didn't. The attorney took 30 to 50% of that money.
Right.
Plus expenses. I mean,
Right.
and I look at the people that said they got $1.5 million from a truck crash, and I say, okay, but did you have that much damage? If you had that much damage, then God bless you, you needed it.
Yeah.
But don't run from some of these. And I agree that some insurance companies have a bad reputation. Some insurance companies don't do what's right, and some trucking companies have a bad reputation for trying to hide these kind of things. And so we can overcome that. I think the thing is to do it right. But getting back to the reason why they use that information, they use the Warner whole internal stuff, not what happened at the crash, but the internal stuff to get that large judgment in front of that jury that finally got overturned.
Tommy, let me ask you a question. What other states are there other than Florida that have changed how they're looking at these nuclear settlements?
Georgia just passed a law.
Oh, okay.
Very
So
favorable. Georgia became a hellhole, excuse my language, for plaintiff attorney, but Georgia just passed a law. But the problem, I got asked this the other day, Chuck, I just remember this, my comment, and I'll say it's about Georgia, same in Florida. The underwriter that was with me said, we're looking at Florida more favorably. And I got asked, does that mean you can get insurance easier? I said, not really, not a rate increase yet. We got a toe in the water, but we're not having the full body there, and we won't until the courts rule on this, until they get a few cases under their belt to get it dismissed. So there's some history there. So the move is there, but we got to still wait until how the court's going to interpret all this stuff.
Yeah, because when I was running the fleet over at Traffics, I know that we got penalized when we were running a lot of miles in Florida.
Yeah.
And another time we were running a lot of miles in Texas.
Both of them. Right.
And then Mississippi, Alabama, it depends which way we went down. But if we went down that way to the eastern part of the state, the Northeast, if we went down that way, we would sometimes get into some doo-doo as far as the insurance companies, and you're running a lot of miles in certain jurisdictions. And I know Florida was one they really didn't like.
Right, they didn't, but that has turned around.
Okay.
There are people willing to write, and they're more favorable there. Again, we're not completely out into the court cases. They still are looking at those, but they think that there's a positive move here. So they got people looking at that. And that's why, and again, to support this, truckers, join your local trucking associations. This is who's winning these cases. The state trucking associations are going to the court cases. Texas came very close, but it didn't go through last session in Texas. They're going to try again. They got some there, but they didn't get everything there. And what they didn't get in is what you post as damages, and that's what they were trying to address in Texas to complement what they did a couple of years ago.
Right. Okay. And do you think that this is going to, do you think more and more states are going to start looking more favorably upon the trucking industry and start buckling against these nuclear settlements?
Chuck, yes. And the reason why is that it becomes an economic situation. We talk about inflation. One of the costs of inflation, what they don't understand, that judgment that went against that trucking company, who pays for it? It's the consumer pays for it.
Well, in the end, yeah.
The consumer ends up paying for it because it's passed on to the consumer because the trucker has to get the money to pay for it.
Right.
And so they get more for the shipper. The shipper has to get more for their product they're selling to be able to pay this part. And so this is going to be something that is going to permeate everything here, but it is going to help in the long run and make it more accessible. And it gives us now, the Warner case gives the plaintiff's attorney a roadmap to how to fight this. And now that's going to be cited in every other jurisdiction now, that ruling now of Texas Supreme Court. Not all states are going to buy into it. Not all court systems are going to buy into it. But at least now there is a favorable, and they got, in my comment when I was asked about it, they got it right. The trucker did nothing wrong here. And so why do that? So they got a favorable case now. But it's just then back to our position that we talked about earlier. What could they do about it here to prove it? And that's why the cameras become so important, both inward and out, to prove this. And now the plaintiffs' attorneys are backing away from cases with the videos on it. I've had our friend Rob Mosley, we had him on the show the other day. And he talks about getting a couple cases dismissed when the plaintiff's attorneys got the videos to show what happened in the crash. They just walk away from it. They don't take the case.
So let me ask you another question. When you have these crazy awards, so we all agree that most trucking companies in the United States, and probably in Canada too, are 1 to 10 trucks, with the majority probably being under 5. Would you agree?
Yeah, if you're asking me, these judgments do not get collected. The
That's
famous
what I'm getting at. So somebody gets a $50 million judgment, they have $1 million worth of insurance. What happens then, Tommy?
Well, two things. It's just you know about that $1 billion case in Florida?
Yeah, I heard about that. Was it Quebec? Was that not a Quebec-based carrier?
Yeah, a small who didn't know how to read French, didn't know how to read the cash here, the backup here, accident here. $1 billion. The insurance company had already paid them $1 million out. That was nothing but a traffic. It was just something on the billboard that the lawyer could put there. This doesn't have a small motor carrier. Warner has the dollars, but somebody else that we're listening to, if you have less than 5 or 10 trucks, you want to keep all your assets out of your trucking company except what you need to operate your trucking company. And then at one point in time, the plaintiff's attorney is going to make a decision. Do I accept the $1 million coverage, or do I get a judgment I can't collect? And the insurance company will put the $1 million up and get everybody out of it, because these judgments they're already paid in these cases, Chuck. But this is what happens here. If it's over that limit, then unless the insurance company did something wrong and become liable for more than that because they did not offer their policy limits, then some of it could be collected. But it's just the trophy that the lawyer has.
And I would guess that there wouldn't be 20 trucking companies in all America that could withstand having to pay out $1 billion.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would be ridiculous. Absolutely.
Even
and then let me tell you what the pledge is. Chuck, 900,000 of that was punitive damages, punishment damage. It can't be collected, can't be insured. It's exclusion in the policy. So, it's ridiculous. We hear about it, and then when a jury hears about it or a plaintiff hears about it, the injury, they think they hit the lotto.
Yeah, well, that's what happened. You know what? That's what happened to Carol Fulmer. All these people went searching for lottery winnings, really, by saying maybe they were. I don't know the whole story. Maybe Rico read more into it than I did, but it sounded very similar to that case in Louisiana when the people were sideswiping the trucks and trying to get rich.
You know what solved that, don't you?
Cameras.
Yeah.
Because they run inside the truck.
Yeah.
Rico, I don't know what it costs to get 360 cameras front and back and side, but it can't be more than $300 or $400.
Yeah, the technology is fairly cheap now, and it's improved over the years. So it's not a really expensive ordeal to get it. I think that a lot of, especially small carriers, what we have to do is make sure that whatever system that we got is operating properly. I think a lot of times we kind of set it and forget it, and we don't necessarily go back and check or even know how to pull that information down if we happen to need it. And I think that gets us in a little bit of trouble. So we need to make sure that not only do we have the cameras in place, but we actually know how to go and retrieve the recordings should the need ever arise.
Absolutely, because some of that stuff, if you crank the engine up, it overrides it and this kind of stuff. So you've got to be careful about that to preserve it. But it'll save a lot of cases, Rico. It'll keep them, because when the officer comes up at a crash site, unfortunately, the officers are prejudiced too. They get scared by truckers. The trucker caused it. This is the mentality that too many people have here, which is just the opposite in reality. But
Right.
But the more evidence we have, the better off we're. And Chuck, I hope the image is getting better. I don't know. We thought during the pandemic they did, but it's just tough out there. And it's the one or two truckers that do this. It's not the majority of the truckers.
No, it's not. It's getting, Tommy, I have to say, from the reports I'm hearing from people both in the United States and Canada, since they first started keeping track of things and they started putting wheels on boxes, the trucking industry, as good as we had it from 20 to 22, it's been as bad from around 20, halfway through 22 to now. It has just been, it's been horrible.
The last thing I read, though, there was a fewer fatalities in 2024 than the year before. We kind of mitigate some of that, Chuck. But you're right, and this is why the ones who did it right need to be able to prove they did it right.
Yeah, the problem is there's a lot of trucking companies right now, both big and small. There's some big ones too.
Oh, dollars.
And they're hanging on by just a thread.
Right.
And I'm afraid that in some cases, maybe maintenance isn't up to snuff. They're, I have a friend of mine works as a banker, and he was telling me, they've been repossessing a lot of trucks,
right?
And the trucks they've repossessed, they were all in desperate need of service.
And so the audience here, we understand that. Insurance industry understands that. Insurance industry doesn't like to cancel policies. They want to ensure what is right, and that's a problem that we're having. The insurance industry is having with it's writing smaller trucker. They want to look at their finances as strong as they do their safety records and their loss runs.
It has to.
You got to this part of it, and we sympathize that. And from what I hear, you get mixed. If you listen to the pundits out there who talk about this, there's two sides. We're either in a recession or things are getting better, and I have no idea which one. Rico, are you seeing? I know you had some pressure on what you were getting there, and your shippers adjusted what they were doing with you.
Yeah, here's the dilemma. The huge dilemma. We're going into about year 3 of this market being fairly soft, and rates are being very, very. Rates are down across the board, and you're going into 3 years of that, and that's being compounded by when things were good, people bought equipment that is at a higher price, and now and all that's coming, and then compounded by the cost of operating. Tires cost more, maintenance costs more, insurance rates are going up. All of our expenses that are associated within the industry for us to keep our doors open, and you got really good operators that try to run a very good outfit, and everybody is suffering a little bit right now. I would be doing a disservice to paint some big rosy picture and say that it's not. But however, so you got all of that as kind of like the perfect storm, and that's kind of alludes to what I was saying a little bit earlier. I think that the industry is going through some type of fatigue, because that's why we're starting to see a culling of the herd. Good carriers along with bad carriers because are actually having to fold up and shut down operations, because it's all of this. It's kind of like the perfect storm that's coming, and it's really tough out here right now.
Yeah, and I don't know how it'll get better. I mean, there's no consistency today in our economy, and I'm not talking about political. We're sorting a lot of different things out coming from the pandemic, where, as you said, people paid more for their used trucks than they should have, to not even be able to get trucks, and the whole thing now with the tariffs and all that. It's going to be a while, and you're right. You've got to watch it. The only saving grace at all is the fuel cost seems to be about a third less than what it was a couple of years ago. But
the freight cost
actually is not. I mean, we're actually 30 cents higher from February than at this time right now. We're 30 cents higher.
Well, it just went up. Yeah, but it's still better than 3 years ago. But you're right.
Yeah, but freight rates are a fraction. They're actually a fraction of what they were 3 years ago.
Absolutely,
a fraction. So what you pick up with cheap fuel, you lose on your freight rate.
No. Chuck, I'm absolutely confirming what you just said. I totally agree with that part. We didn't make up stuff. It helped a little bit. But, shippers shippers in a bind, because their products, they got to sell it. Look how many stores have gone under.
Well, yeah,
The
retail is.
volume that they had generated, Joann's and all those kind of things. So it's a real dilemma. I guess some of that's because of the online stuff, which does help the trucker in some extent, at least the last mile delivery.
Well, yeah, but it's not, the difference is you've got everything now concentrated on your online vendors who move a lot. Like, even up here in Canada, I'm shocked at how many blue trailers I see with Amazon on them. It's pretty incredible. But we've lost, in the last 20 years or so, we've lost our three biggest department store chains in all of Canada. One of them being the oldest corporation in North America, if I'm not mistaken, the Hudson Bay Company is bankrupt.
Wow.
So everything has changed where people had more of a chance to haul for more vendors. Now, if you don't haul for, and nothing against Amazon. Now, personally, I'm not a big Amazon shopper because I'm old fashioned. I like to feel and touch a shirt and try it on before I buy it. I want to try on my shoes before I buy them. I want to touch my socks before I buy it. But that's
Talk
me.
to your grandkids about that. Mine goes on Amazon and buys it right now.
The kids about it, they look at me like I'm, from another planet.
Right. They buy it and ship it back. My daughter does that. So yeah.
And they have this attitude. Well, if my shoes don't fit, I send them back. Well, now you don't have shoes. What good is it?
So that's how it's going to do that way.
Yeah.
But it's that we got about 10 more minutes. Let me also make one other thing.
Oh, please do.
Worry about. Again, I keep preaching to make sure they got the right cargo coverage. And the only way you can do that is tell the agent everything you intend to haul. Ask them, if I haul this, do I have coverage for it? What do I have to do to make sure I have theft coverage? Meaning, do I have to keep the vehicle locked and attended and this kind of stuff? There's so many things out there that the cargo policies are so misunderstood. And it's the lower price that you pay. The lower price that you pay, it's not compared to liability. It's not their big a cost, but you need to get the right cargo. Because my opinion is, a smaller trucker will go out of business because having the wrong cargo policy before they'll ever go out of business with a new converter.
Yeah, 100%. One of the things that I know, and I'm speaking from experience, every year I would meet with the insurance company and I would give them a list of what we hauled mostly, because what we didn't haul mostly, I wouldn't know. And then I was always, we were not very dependent upon the load boards for our freight. And, we used to be a lot more, like 30 years ago, 25 years ago, we became less dependent upon the load board, but we're still using them on certain lanes especially where we're doing partial loads, like out of Minnesota and to Minnesota. And one thing I always had to drill down on our team was the fact that if you're taking a load from an outside entity, an outside broker or carrier, which is done still up in Canada, you need to find out what we're hauling. You cannot, when they put on the rate confirmation, FAK or machinery, that doesn't fly because we got to know exactly what we're hauling. So if I can just add that in, make sure that when you're taking work from a broker and it's work that you don't normally do. Now, Rico is fairly fortunate because he knows damn well when he's picking up at a greenhouse or he's picking up at a produce company, he's hauling produce. It's no secret. And when he's picking up at a chicken slaughterhouse or a packing plant, he's loading up with chickens. But all of a sudden he's stuck somewhere. He's down in southern Alabama or down out in Tennessee or something, and he has to go to a broker. And if the broker says to Rico, "I've got a load there," what is it? It's I don't know. It's FAK. There's no FAK.
I'll give you an example. In Florida, it's seafood. Well, it's the difference between fish and shrimp.
Yes.
Shrimp will put you out of business. It's supposed seafood. Example here. I had a case that a trucker wanted me to help them with. They were hauling components for microwaves.
Okay.
The trailer burned up. Insurance company denied claims because it was electronics.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, yeah. That's even from a theft. That's why you worry about that, not if it burns up. It wasn't even a theft.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, those are kind of things.
Fine print.
And it put them out of business. And unfortunately, they had factored their loads, and so they couldn't collect it. So the factoring company was coming after them for $70,000, 5 trucks.
That guy's probably toast now.
Right.
Yes.
And that's the kind of example that they've got to watch their policies, because for $200 more, they could have gotten that covered.
Right.
And you know, something that I found very distasteful. I don't know if I made mention about this last week. I was dealing on the spot market with the broker. We agreed on a rate, and we got ready to finalize. You know, they called back to do the verification to make sure you say who you are.
Right.
And the gentleman on the phone says, "Well, I know we agreed that we would do the rate for we would do it for $800, but do you think you can move it for $897?" And I said, "Where does this come from? What do you mean?" He said, "Well, we try to always just do an odd number, because if we can save for every dollar that we might be able to save over the course of all the loads that we move, we can produce a nice return for ourselves and bonus." Like, what the hell is that? This is the thing. This is the problem that we're having right now. You want to, you know, you start cutting people on a fair rate, you start cutting things, then that person is liable to start cutting corners as well. And and you know, but if you want top-notch service, or if you want it, but most people, you know, when you're dealing, unfortunately, in the spot market, they really don't give a damn. It's just a race to the bottom. A relationship be damned. It's all about, obviously, it's all about how many couple of dollars can I save? Can I knock off here or there?
There's no respect for the supplier, and,
Right.
and that is so wrong, because in my way of thinking, you don't have a deal ever. You cannot make a deal with somebody unless both sides walk away satisfied. It's not a deal. Somebody got screwed.
Right.
That's not a deal.
So that broker is now on my do not use list. So
I don't blame you. No, you know what, Rico? Maybe it was $1, $1.50, or $3 this time.
It's principles.
But next time it's going to, you know, the man's lack of integrity.
Right.
So
Chuck, you go back to my father's days, and you know more of this than I do. But when he had his contract with Vlasic Foods, you know, he did that as the flowers that was involved in your parents' side of the question. He negotiated enough rates because he knew the trucker had to stay in business. And he was able, and he preached to Vlasic about that. And he was successful in keep truckers in business, because the broker needs to understand that this is way before load boards, that if they don't have enough revenue to keep their chain of movement, then nobody's going to be happy. And
keep supply chain open, and Vlasic understood.
Right.
Number one, they needed to get their pickles to market. That's what they needed. Your dad knew how to get those pickles to market, so there was a win-win. So everybody won. It was a good deal for Vlasic. It was a good deal for your dad, Merle. It was a good deal for the truckers that worked for your dad. Everybody won.
But so many brokers like Rico are chased to the bottom, and they think now what they can offer a shipper is a low cost of transportation,
Right.
which should be just the opposite. You need to have a consistent means of transportation that you can predict that the load will get there and the trucker stays in business. So I think AI, all this AI stuff, it just doesn't. It takes the personal levels away, and everything now is through some kind of formula, and I think that's hurting us.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the time, and I don't want to be cavalier with your time, Tommy. I appreciate you for coming on. I understand you had a small little situation this morning, and you braved it out anyway and came on board with us.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
I'm doing well, thank you. It's just a precautionary thing. But let me say this: everybody sees my name, right?
Absolutely.
My name is my email address, TommyRook@AOL.com.
Yep.
So if everybody wants to contact me, they see the name here. Instead of a space, one word, at AOL.com. And if they got any questions, I don't charge. We'll talk about it. The only time I ever charge anybody, Rico, is when I have to put something in writing. I'll give them what I can give them off the top of my head, but I can give them some advice and tell them what they need to do on this kind, what I can. And I can refer them to lawyers, like I've done Chuck a couple of times, the lawyer to help them out when the case happens here. So I'm more than welcome to do this. My passion is trucking and to take the trucker. And as Chuck says, I respect the trucking industry, and I've dedicated the last part of my life trying to help the insurance industry understand trucking and try to help the trucking industry to understand insurance. And to some extent, we've been successful.
Well, I think you've been very successful, Tom. You've certainly, I've been in a room where you educated 600 insurance brokers,
Right.
And I think that's pretty incredible. They all walked away knowing a hell of a lot more. And there were transportation lawyers in there too that got a good lesson.
And also more, the common is that everybody says I'm passionate for trucking, and they also get that. I tell them if they don't want to take care of the trucker, just don't sell them insurance. If they're not willing to do more than just collect the premium.
Yeah. As the old saying goes, not all heroes wear capes. We appreciate you, Tommy. we definitely appreciate you. Chuck, let the folks know how they can get a hold of you.
Yes, if I can help any of our listeners with anything, please reach out to me. My email address is chucksnow280@outlook.com. That's chucksnow280@outlook.com. Put your phone number on the email. Be glad to get back to you and help you any way I can. With that, Rico, I'll let you back. We're in a hole for another week.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't keep you long, but hopefully what you got, the information you got here was strong. So we definitely appreciate you guys for taking the time out to join us. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you took some time to hang out with us. We want you guys to continue to stay safe out there, stay healthy, try your best to stay profitable, keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise. God bless you and good night.
Good night and God bless.
Thank you for having me. Hope to see you all soon.
Yes, you will. God bless. Thank you, Tommy. Thanks, Rico.
Thank you.
God bless.